Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be inspired by the beach. I have two cards that we're going to take a look at, and here's the basic items that you're going to need. I'll show you where to get those. The second card is going to have a few more embellishments, so let's go ahead and get started. If you are interested at all at finding out where I got these stamps, I'll link them below. But you can also go to my Stamping Up page at Jen with 2N Thompson.stampingup.net, and you can go into the stamp section, into shopping. You can explore a whole bunch of things, but for these, what you could do is go into the search bar and type under the clear stamps, type beach, and those are the ones that I'm going to be using there. So one thing I like about doing multiple cards is that it makes it real easy as you go through the process. If you're going to do one, you might as well do a couple. So I'm first starting with layering down the backdrop of the card. So this is the sun area. I'm using Mango Melody as the backdrop. I didn't have a pure yellow, and this actually kind of works good because one of the cards I'm going to turn into more of a sunset look. I'm using some brush sets to blend, which is my absolute favorite to do that. And then they're really easy. You use it and then you use a cloth to brush it off. And I'm going to start to lay the second color, which is the ocean portion of it. One of the things that I found in playing with this a couple of times is it's really good on the horizon to maybe leave a little white or faded area. I think you could do it two ways. You can either make it dark so it stands out, or light so it just kind of blends into the sun area. And I then add a little bit more of a teal color or green tone to the ocean. I'm thinking of the Pacific Ocean and missing it, so I wanted to add a little bit of that in there. You could say I changed into a different brush here as the space gets a little bit smaller. I wanted to use that smaller brush to lay down the second color in the ocean. I am also dabbing off. You can see like at that you get these little hot spots sometimes even with these brushes if you put too much ink on. So I like to hit the ink pad and then put it on a separate piece of paper so all the harshness goes away by the time you hit the card. And you don't have to do that depending on how you like your color put down. This last one I'm doing here for the background is going to be the sand, and I am using a gray color for the sand. And again, I'll link those colors below so you have them. I'm going to speed up as we go through the rest of this sand and into the next card. I do the same thing with a couple of variances, and you'll see those. I add a little bit of red to the sun to make it look more of a sunset. Okay, so we're going to move into the next portion where we're going to add the lounge chair with the umbrella into the scene. I've put that stamp on a block, and I'm going to use Stazon Black ink, And with this ink, you should know it does stain and it does stay on unless you clean the stamp. But if you do get this black ink on your stamp, know that it does not stop the stamp from working. It just doesn't look the prettiest anymore, but there is a cleaning solution that will get most of it off. So again, I'm just going to dab this and we'll go ahead. I want to make sure I give it a good inking, so not over inking, but inking. So when I put it on here, I've got one try to do this. And so that's what you're going to see me do here. I actually put it a little off center in this card. And the card that I'm using, I didn't mention this, is a 80-pound white cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches long. So I'm going to do the same thing with the second card. And again, I mentioned about cleaning these off. So you can see on here it's pretty black. This stays on cleaner. It's great at getting it off, or at least most of it off. It takes a couple of swipes sometimes to do that. So just keep in mind, it's up to you. It's not going to ruin the stamp to leave the black ink on there. So we're going to move into putting some color on the chair and the umbrella, and I'm going to use red. I chose red because I thought it'd be really cool. It was one of the colors that I had on stock, and it also will cover over the areas that I laid ink in the background on. So for me, I wasn't worried about that. There's other ways you could have done this if you don't want to use red. One, you could stamp and do a cutout on a different color cardstock and then put it onto the card over the background. You could also stamp the chair first if you wanted it just in black ink or one color ink, or you wanted to use lighter colors for the umbrella and the chair, and then just put a mask over it. So when you're laying your background, you're not covering it up. But this is what I chose to do. I think it's just easy. And like I said, it's what I had on hand. And I always encourage people, yes, it's great to buy new products, but look at what you have on hand and use that. The red is a rich ink, so again, it's going to cover right over those. I lined up the umbrella, stamp right over. I do 2 cards here, but you could see this is really easy. The great thing about using this Misti or any stamping apparatus you have that makes it easy to do multiple cards. You could have easily done 10 of these cards, so I love that. And I'm going to use, after I stamp this second card, I'm going to use the same process to put stripes. There's a stripe in this stamp set. I love the stamp set because there's different layers to it, or you can use it without the layers. But there is one for the chair and it's got little stripes, and I'm going to again do this in red, and we'll do it on both cards. To add some little birds on here. I added red on one of the cards. I added red to make it look like that sunset, but I added some birds, and you can use any black marker you have, just like a really thin one, and you do this, you know, wherever you want the birds. It does not have to be precise. You can see I do them differently on the 2 cards. So for the card on the right, that pretty much finishes it up, other than what I'm going to do is add a sediment to that. But the other one, I'm going to start doing a little bit of embellishments. And so one of the things I'm going to do is add some waves in the ocean. This is part of the stamp kit. You can see I'm not going to add too many of them, and then I will add a little white ink into here to make it look like there are some waves. This is just a white gel pen. Again, this isn't something that you have to do. I thought it would just add a little bit more dimension to the card. I don't know that I love it. You could try it. You might be able to do it better. And then I think, okay, well, there are a little foam that lands on the beach too. So I'm trying to add a little bit of that in with the white gel pen. And what I really want to do is I'm going to add some embossing powder that looks like sand. And so I have a pen here that I'm kind of just coloring in. It's the clear embossing by Versamark. And then I'm going to add the sand castle, and I'll put the links below if you choose to do this. I did not do this on both. I wanted to show you one again with embellishments, and then one if you just left it as a one layer card, what it could look like. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just adding in this cool embossing powder. It is shiny, so it doesn't exactly look like sand when you get up close on it, but it's pretty cool and it adds dimension. It also might be a good option if you wanted to cover any little mistakes up. I know one of the spots I got a little heavy-handed on the ink, and so it helped me cover that up. But again, just another option for you to consider. I just do a quick embossing of it here, and then we'll go ahead and start to assemble our card. So on here, I'm going to add a couple more embellishments. I found these little glitter things that are supposed to be used for other cards, but I decided there's a couple of shells in there. I want to add them on. And I struggle with this glue. I don't know why, but it's very sticky, which is good for card making. But it was sticking to my fingers. I couldn't get those little shells to stay on. You may have noticed in the last part of adhering the card together, I used a little too much glue, so you do not need a lot of this. The last thing we have to do is add sentiments. I pick two. The first one I'm doing is wishing you a sunny day, and the second card I'm going to use, relax, you deserve it. And so this is the one layer card. I just stamp it directly on there. Again, you want to use enough ink so you make sure you get one good impression, or you can use your Misti like I'm doing here. This one, I want to add a little dimension to the card, so I'm doing it on a separate piece of paper that I'll cut down, put over some of the yellow cardstock, and use some foam to adhere it to the card. It just gives it a little bit of depth. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and if you're interested in future content, hit the subscribe and alert button on the page so you can get notifications. And one last thing I should say, when I was assembling the card, you might have seen there was an image on the back of the blue cardstock, and that's because I was playing around and I was thinking about using colored cardstock instead of using ink for the backgrounds. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, but the cardstock was still good on the other side. So I encourage you to save your paper, and maybe you can recycle and use it for a different project. Thanks for joining today. I really appreciate it. Take care, everyone.